Fiscal year 2015-16, the budget hearing for Thursday, September 10th, 2015. Roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Coviello?
Here.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Watts?
Here.
Commissioner Jonas?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ross?
Here.
Okay, if you would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome to tonight's hearing. We're going to open up with public comments. Anyone wishing to make a public comment, please state your name and address for the record. No? All right. Linda?
Linda Dillon, 712 115th Street. I just have a request. In days past, we used to have public comments at the beginning, and we were also allowed to have public comments at the end of meetings. And sometimes I think that some of the items that are discussed during the meeting require comment at the end from residents, and we're not allowed to speak at that point. So I would like to see perhaps that policy restored to where we could speak beginning and end.
Okay. All right, maybe we can put that on as a discussion for the next meeting. Anyone else? Okay, we'll close the public comment period. We have ordinance 2015-06, first reading.
This is an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, establishing the 2015-2016 millage rate at 9.70 mils for each $1,000 of assessed valuation upon real and personal property within the village limits of the Village of Biscayne Park, providing for an effective date. This is a request to hold a public hearing, approve, and set second hearing for September 24th. There's two items here. I'll remind the Commission, this is simply the millage. This is simply the 9.70 mils proposed. You can adopt that or go lower at this point. You can't go higher. And also to let you know that this is 10.9% greater than the current rollback rate of 8.7468 mils. This is not the details of the budget. That will be the next public hearing. So this is simply on that amount, the mills.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we'll open this up to public. Open the public hearing. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 2015-6.
I'll second it, but I want
Oh,
to just discuss it.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
me too.
motion by Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson for discussion.
Since I've seen some emails, there's a concern about, do we need to have a simple majority or super majority? I don't want to end up finding ourselves on the short, doing something wrong by passing this. Are we safe with still safe with the majority?
We have checked this on several occasions, and Finance Director has on numerous occasions checked it, including today. I can tell you that part of the confusion is it's not simply the percentage of the rollback rate. There's also the increase in the adjusted income, as well as there is a formula that also relates back to last year, the amount you could have passed with a simple majority that is also figured into it. I cannot do that math, and in fact, almost nobody does that math. I'll defer to the Finance Director, but what happens is we provide that information, and the Department of Revenue has a form that it automatically populates. But I do know that our Finance Director looked at this again today just to be double sure.
In fact, I called the team to verify again the information that we have is correct. I think where we were doing the calculation to get to the 110, everybody was worried about, was because we were looking at the 8.7468 of the rollback rate. However, if you look at the form that we have here, the adjusted rollback is at 10.73. So, and that makes the difference with fall under the 110% that we're looking at. So that's the explanation we have to do.
And just to kind of loop it all back together, that 10.3773 is auto-populated by the form. It's not an actual calculation that we do. It is auto-populated by that tricky algebra that they have behind the form that includes the per capita and those type of things. So we've checked, we've double-checked, we've done the form. We were actually well into the process. We submitted our form after we set the tentative millage rate through to the proper authorities, and nothing has come kicked back to us. And I want to say that date was August 3rd or August 4th. So we're well on our way into that process. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to address that.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Commissioner Watts?
Yeah, I just wanted a brief discussion, since we are, because of the ad valorem taxes, the increase in our income, whether or not we might readdress the issue of perhaps lowering the millage rate a mill, something that you had suggested at the very beginning of this discussion. That would be only $14,000, because it seems as though we've got, I think I have two different numbers, but something like $140,000 more than last year, or in excess of $112,000. I just wondered if anyone had considered that any further.
Any comments regarding that issue?
Go ahead, Bob.
You know, I went through every single line item on the budget, and I think it's a very tight budget, and I have to commend the manager of coming up with that budget, and our surplus that we had from the last audit year was not touched, and so that's going into our reserves, and she was able to come up with the money out of this budget to do our matching grant that we had, the money for Phase 4 out of this existing budget. It's a very tight budget considering all that extra money. Now along comes next year, those are one-time expenses, those two things I just said. Along comes next year, I think we definitely can address our millage rates on the next year's budget. But this year, the budget is tight.
Okay, I just wanted to know your opinion.
Correct.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think we're aiming to lower taxes eventually, but maybe this year is not the year because of the capital improvements that we're doing. But you know, that hopefully will be our goal.
Okay.
In theory, it's a good idea to keep taxes as low as possible, and we should do that too. But the problem is not only the one-time expenses of this year, but even as a general rule, each one of us has wanted things, and there wasn't room for it in the budget. Even at 9.7, Heidi has presented a list of things, and these are really basic things we ought to be doing for ourselves that we can't do at 9.7. And even if we could do all of them, we still can't do any of the normal neighborhood development that we really should do. So I mean, I don't approve of this millage because it's too low, but I'm going to vote for it anyway because it can't be any higher than that now. But I really think we should have had a broader vision and really tried to improve this neighborhood and solve problems.
Commissioner Ross, anything? No comment. Okay. All right. So there's a motion on the floor. Commissioner Ross, second by Commissioner Anderson. Roll call.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Jonas?
Yep.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
And Mayor Coviello?
Yes. All right. Ordinance 2015-07.
This is an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, adopting a budget for fiscal year 2015-2016 for the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for an effective date. This request to hold a public hearing, approve on first reading, and set second reading for September 24th.
Okay, thank you. We'll open this up to public comment. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Madam Manager?
We've discussed the budget at length, and we are available for any questions or concerns that might come up as you make your deliberations. But I wanted to point out that we've done something this year. We've provided a summary of the budget in the form of a brochure. They're available here tonight in the audience. They're available online on the front page of our website, and they're also available at Village Hall. It explains the budget process, gives a really brief summary of where we are with the millage rate, and then on the back is the revenue and expenditure summary. So this is available to all of our residents and visitors who might be interested in our budget process.
Okay, no, that's wonderful, thank you. The entire presentation and obviously the substantive provisions of the budget, I think were well done, so
Thank you.
we thank you for that. Comments?
Yes. One of the things I would like for the commission to think about is the original proposed budget for the manager. She had $25,000 in there for doing code sweeps. And at that time, I was against hiring a company, I was for having a part-time person. I have since thought about this a little bit more, looked at this budget seriously. She has $9,000 in there for the code, for extra for the code, to help code department. I would like to see us on a one-time only make up out of our reserves to make up that $25,000 that the manager first proposed to us.
To hire a part-time.
No, not to hire, because that's an ongoing expense. I think let's start off, just like she was saying, with a sweep, in other words, with a company. Even though I was for hiring a part-time person, I'd rather, let's go with a company this one time, see how it works out, and then we're over this crunch that we have with all these other expenses.
Okay, but you currently have $9,000 in the budget for
Yeah,
for-
and if you'll allow me to explain how that, and it's not a round number, how we got to that number was after our budget workshops, we had a list of consensus from the commission of things to add and things to pull back from the budget. Two items that we were asked to add was a part-time code officer and a part-time recreation employee. There was no way to accommodate that with all of the other adds into the budget. So the balance of the expenditures that we came up with was 9,000 and change. So that's how that 9,000 came about. To achieve what Commissioner Anderson is speaking of, we would just need 14 to 15,000. Or I'm sorry, 15 to 16,000.
So what you were referring, the 24,000 you were referring to was actually the deficit to have a part-time employee.
Correct, but
Okay.
but instead of actually having an employee by having what the manager proposed, it is not something that needs to be done right away, and if something else comes up, at least there is a little extra money sitting in there, even though it's in a line item for that code sweep, that it could be possibly transferred if something comes up. Otherwise, she could go ahead and do what she was originally talking about. It's a one-time. Along comes next year's budget, then we can go ahead and discuss, because we don't actually have a person that we're hiring.
I mean, I like the idea. I want to see more money put towards code. I would prefer a part-time employee, even if it means that it's going to be a yearly thing. I mean, we're spending $135,000 this year, which we're not going to have in the budget next year.
Right.
So I think we can sustain an employee. We would need 24,000 to the 9 plus the 24 to
For an employee.
for an employee. Okay.
Because with an employee, there's other expenses that we wouldn't be incurring with a company.
And we're imagining that this person or this company would do what?
Code sweeps, helping our code officer by having a professional person in here for a certain period of time.
Helping him do what that we believe he's not doing?
Manager? Instead of me trying to put words in your mouth.
The idea of doing an outsourced person would to do a sweep. So we would assign perhaps, this is a new thing, so this is kind of how I envisioned it, and it's not set in stone, of course, that we would identify with the commission 3 or 4 high priority code issues, and we would ask this outsourced position to focus on that. It would take them a week or 2 to hit all of the citations, and then they would be with us. It's not a full-time position. It's certainly not after the first couple weeks, 40 hours a week, but they would be with us through the entire compliance portion of those courtesy notices that would be issued on those 3 to 4 high priority issues.
Let me ask the question in a different way. Where are the bottlenecks currently?
There's not a bottleneck, but what we do, and I hate to admit it, but it's the reality of anything we do in Village Hall, is we're reactive. A neighbor complains, and we're going out to look at some code issues at that house. Of course, our officer is out there sweeping the village at all times, but so much of our work is based on complaints that we are so reactive. And this would give us a chance to kind of back us up and get ahead of some of these issues and wipe them out, hopefully once and for all for good, or at least for a good 5 years. If it's just using, I'm not saying this would be a priority of the commission, but just using dirty roofs as an example, have them hit every one. You know, if you look at our weekly code reports, you can kind of see that reactiveness in our weekly code reports, because you'll see that the addresses are somewhat grouped together. It's a trend I noticed myself, that if there's a lot going on 116th, I also happen to know that someone was complaining about a neighbor on 116th, so he was spending a lot of time there this week. It's the nature of the business. Our city is as big as one code zone that you would have in any other size city, so it's the right size for one officer, but this would just help us address, because we're 100% residential and because we're so dense in that residential nature, it would allow us just to really address some major aesthetic issues and life safety issues that seem to come and go in phases, in waves.
Commissioner Ross?
I'm hearing two different proposals, I think, in the conversation
Correct.
here. What Commissioner Anderson's talking about was just increasing or restoring to 25,000 what was in the draft budget.
Correct.
And you're talking about something different, sort of telling the manager what kind of personnel she needs to get the job done. My feeling is that we should leave it to her, we should leave it to the manager to decide the kind of staffing that she needs to get the job done. And I'll ask you, do you think that $9,000, if your original plan was to sort of outsource the help, do you think that $9,000 or $10,000 will get us where we need to be?
$9,000 would give us about 160 man-hours. So it would be a very slim sweep. At that point, I would probably try to limit it to 2 items, maybe 3, but that's about 160 man-hours based on the consultant's rate.
What was the total figure for that?
In the
15?
budget right now?
No, there's 9,000 right now, but what would be the total figure? Under Commissioner Anderson's proposal, it would be 15.
We originally proposed 25,000. And I honestly don't think we would use all of that. That was actually looking at doing possibly 2 sweeps. And like I said, this is the first time we're going at this since I've been here and kind of changing that model with where we have a focused effort, as far as I know. So it might be 2 sweeps during the year, or we might end up just spending 12, 13, 14,000 to do 1 sweep. I honestly don't know. So that's why it was important to me to capture that 9 at the very least.
Right.
To make it work somehow.
Because what I'm hearing the manager saying, it isn't something that necessarily will be spent, but you don't know until you do, let's say, the first sweep to see how it works out, and it may be that's it. And then it would be wonderful, that money would be sitting there at the end of the year, goes back into the reserves. But I would rather see us to be able to me, code is extremely important. And I'd rather not shortchange our code department. Give them some help.
No, I agree 100%. Commissioner Watts?
Yes, I do have a question. I know that the administration, the staff of the administration, you've all been very, very busy with 2 building projects and all this year. But I'm thinking back to the fact that we have, I think, 2 people who are certified code enforcement people on staff who haven't really been doing anything with much with respect to code. And when Candido was hired as an assistant to the manager, he also oversaw and worked on code issues. And I was wondering if the village manager has any plans for the other people who are certified to do that, take help with that.
The intention of that certification, from my perspective, was always to, especially with the public services manager, to provide better oversight of the department so that that position had a clear understanding of what code did, so the leadership was there. Of course, they can back up on one issue or two, but that individual, as well as the police officer, have full-time duties that do not include daily code work. It was really more for supervision, and the police officer was something that's very common in the cities, and it's to help back up the code officer on things that might be a little more sticky.
Okay.
Other comments?
The other side of strengthening code is, and something that we've talked about at the workshops and maybe even before, having progressive penalties for repeat offenders. Is that something we need to figure in as additional legal fees, or do we envision that coming up, being developed within what we already allocate?
That's, it depends on that time, right? But we'll do everything to keep it within those legal fees. I think this year will be under the budget. We'll do everything we can to keep it in.
Because I think that that's going to help go a long way towards making sure that, lawns are cut and people are keeping their properties neat, more so than the sweep that catches an occasional infraction that gets corrected very quickly but then falls back.
What's the difference between the monetary difference per year of hiring a part-time, outsourcing it with versus a part-time employee?
Outsourcing, we set a budget of $25,000 based on.
And what would the part-time employee
The
approximately?
part-time employee, when we plugged it in, came to $33,000. That does not include an additional car. We figured we'd figure out a way to do it with both of our cars that we have, our administration car and our code car. It doesn't include any more money for training. We did not add to the code budget in any other line item except for salary and burdens. And that number was $33,000.
I mean, look, if the consensus is to support, a part-time outsourcing position, I'll support that. My preference is to hire somebody part-time as an employee. That way that person gets familiar with the village, gets to know the village, and I think it's more effective from a code compliance standpoint. I think the budget could handle that going forward in light of some of the other costs that will not be there next year. But again, I'll support either one.
I think the sentiment is right. I think we all agree that we want the neighborhood shaped up. We want people to honor the codes. I'm just not at all persuaded that adding man hours essentially to the code officer's role does any of this. I just don't really see that that's the result of this.
Okay.
I think the bottlenecks are elsewhere.
Mayor?
Yes. Oh, wait a minute, but where else?
Well, for example, Rox was saying, maybe if we had graduated penalties and, it would motivate people more, then maybe that would work. I know that some of this depends upon getting liens, and that's not the code officer's job. It's other people's job. And even if we get the liens, we don't collect on them until somebody sells the property. So there are a lot of things that we just can't effect, no matter how much we want to, on a given day. And if we had 10 code officers, we still couldn't make it happen any better or any faster. That's what I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, my reasoning was by not having the part-time person, because this way we can go ahead and test the waters to see how it's going to work. And it may be that we may not even utilize any of that money if we're able to go ahead and have those steps in place. But at least that money would be sitting there. So if the manager feels it would really help out, it's there. Because if we hire somebody, then, that person's here. And right now, I'd rather go ahead and test the waters first.
Okay. Yes.
I'm disinclined to take money out of the reserves. I think that if it's the will of the commission to have a part-time person, then I think that we should find it within the budget. And I think that perhaps the village manager has indicated that she thinks she can manage without the part-time person, and we might be able to just have the sweep and see what happens next year. Because next year, if annexation were to proceed, we definitely would have to hire someone, actually full-time, another person. So
Yeah.
that's my thought.
Normally, I completely would agree with you, Commissioner Watts. But we have, our manager rolled into our reserves around 100,000 that we didn't spend last year. So what I'm proposing is, in theory, instead of that, all that money is going in reserves, almost all of it, we'll just take a small chunk of it out to defer over here. But because that's part of why I was saying, by having a company, we're not locking ourselves into next year of supporting this, because it may be a one-time thing that we never have to do it again. I mean, or maybe something that is going to show, yes, we definitely need to have a part-time person, but at least it gives the manager an opportunity to go ahead and see what's going to work.
Okay, all right, so is there a motion? I'm sorry, is there a consensus on,
I would be willing to not go the full 25, but maybe split the difference to 17,000, test it out and see how that, how that helps correct what's going on. And in this discussion, it seems like the couple of things that sort of fell off the table with the revised budget were the 25,000 for the code support, the part-time recreation personnel, and digitizing records. Was there something else that couldn't be accommodated in the budget?
That matches my notes.
Okay, so I would propose that we increase the code support to $17,000 and then take another $8,000 and throw it into, or some figure, and throw it into support for a part-time recreation person to come in seasonally when we get busy in the summer, in order to give our staff a little bit of relief and be able to juggle schedules better with the extended summer hours.
Commissioner Anderson?
I would prefer not to go ahead and go into actually getting a person yet. Maybe next year's budget we can look at it, but this year I'd rather stay away from actually getting any employees.
Commissioner
For code?
Watts?
No,
not
code-
for
code-
No, for Parks and
rec
Recreation.
Correct.
Yeah, that's it. In looking at the manager's reports, and I see, how many violations or notices have been given for, messy yard and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, it seems as though just recently our code enforcement officer has been going gangbusters. And in the last year, not to be personal, but there have been things that he was out for a while and we had to hire someone else who didn't know the village. And we don't anticipate that that's going to happen again this year. So perhaps things will just keep on the way they are, which seems to be very good.
I just, I see so many areas that it seems like one person, I don't see how they can handle everything. I mean, I'll just throw off the top because, like the manager says, it's, whatever the commission feels are, priorities, but I see trash piles keep popping up all during the week, all over the place. I see people who don't understand that their garbage or recycling containers need to be removed. And just sloppiness. I mean, that's just off the top. And I think maybe with the progressive system, if we can get that in place, maybe that will stop. I don't know. I mean, but I'd like to at least have the manager to have the, be able to go ahead and at least try something different.
Okay, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Anderson. Anything else on that issue? Is there a consensus on a part-time outsourcing?
Yes.
Looks like activity doesn't accomplish anything, no.
No?
No.
Okay. No?
No?
Yes, yes.
For 25,000?
That was your
Yes,
proposal,
yes.
right? Yes.
I would go with 17. It's a new program, and to test it out,
Okay.
17 gives us at least 320, maybe 330 or more hours, and that's enough for a test.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right, that's. there you
I
go.
mean, I would prefer the 25, doesn't necessarily we're going to be spending it, but I'm not going to go ahead and throw the whole thing away.
Right.
I would-
Okay, so
Go-
there's
go for it.
consensus for 17. All righty.
So the consensus is to take 8 from the reserves?
I
Correct.
think that's what we were all discussing, yes. Mayor, there was one other item
Sure.
in the budget, something completely different. In the road fund, well, not the road fund, CITT, we have, I believe, $40,000 for new street signs. I would like, I think it would look nice. It separates us from our surrounding area. But I also look at our roads, and I don't mean repave, and just repairing, professionally repairing the edges of the roads, some of them where the whole roads are being broken apart because of roots. I'd rather take that money, or part of that money, to go ahead and start fixing some of the roads, not have to wait for another year, because what we have for road repair, I don't think we can do much of anything.
So, Commissioner Anderson, if I can put you at ease, during our budget workshops, the commission did express concern about the list that we presented, and we did agree to discuss it at a later date. We're obligated to submit something prior to the budget process
Right.
being completed to the county CITT office. We are not obligated or married, and I can not just we're not obligated or married to anything that we submit to them. It's just to capture our funds, essentially.
Okay, okay.
And if the next area where I hope to put you at ease is, based on all of these amounts outside of cleaning the drains, the commission would have to approve it. Anything above 10,000 has to come to the commission. So nothing on this is necessarily going to happen without extensive discussion with the commission. It really, for lack of a better word, is just a placeholder to meet the county requirements so that we show that we are part of the CIT program this year.
I have no problems on that,
Yeah.
because I was just concerned that if we put in our budget, we're sort of locked in stone of where that, on the CITT part. If we're not,
We're not.
then that's fine. That's
Yeah,
fine.
we're
We
not.
can discuss that later on. That's all I was.
Okay. Commissioner
Um,
Watts?
Yes, I had the same concern about the street signs. I think we should
Okay.
spend money on other things,
Anything else?
and street repair. But just one question about this, because I misplaced my CIT notes. We have utilities and streetlights that are listed under the CITT. Would lighting, I know it's not actually transportation, would be lighting of the rec center and the whole of Edbert Park fall under CITT? Could we use funds for that?
No, lighting of the facility cannot, CITT funds just have to be used for transportation projects, so something that's along the roadway, and even though there's a road going around here, the lighting would not be approved, because you'd be lighting the road and not the recreation center. If I can remind you, we do have in the budget some lighting
Yeah,
based
yeah.
on the foundation match of, they're giving 2,000 and we've budgeted 2,000. In the budget, it looks like 4,000, but in your revenue, it shows the 2,000 offset from the foundation.
Could we change the sidewalks and call them bike paths?
No, the CITT is pretty restrictive. I'm happy to share. There's a nice little information sheet. It doesn't capture every project, but it's on their
Yeah.
website, and it says what can and cannot be funded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think that,
Okay. Other comments?
About that or about anything else?
Anything?
Yeah. I know it doesn't change the amount, but is this the meeting where we will talk about whether we want to change the compensation for the commission?
I mean, it's, the compensation's in the budget, so if you want to just bring that up, you can
Well, the method of compensating, as opposed to setting aside this amount of money.
No,
and
this is just
assuming
the
it-
amount, this is really the amount of money for your budget.
Yeah,
But it does have,
It has the method in there.
it has the method in there as a line item, so we would be bound by that line item.
Well, you could change that. It wouldn't have changed the number later on, but you can discuss it today, too.
it doesn't change the number that's set aside, but
The
depending upon
commission-
how we compensate, it may change how much of it actually gets spent.
The commission department budget is $24,000. That
Yeah.
includes the $12,000 compensation for the commission.
Well, that's what I was
salaries.
asking about.
And right now, it's listed as compensation,
Right.
as a payroll line.
Right, that's why I wanted to talk about it.
And that would be the
It also
time.
includes the FICA, thank you, it includes the FICA as well.
What'd you say, John?
That would be the time if you
Yeah,
want to do that before
okay.
you vote on it.
So we had talked about changing it from a straight occasional payment to a sort of a reimbursement scheme, depending upon how much commissioners spend in the execution of their job, and I think we should make that change.
Okay, any support for that?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Ross.
I didn't bring my notes with me, but it's something that I've been advocating for a while. And I guess the main driver, the main purpose is that then the funds will be used to benefit the village, to benefit the elected officials, giving them the tools to do their job more effectively, and would be able to use the entire $12,000 in that venture rather than have some of it disappear to taxes. What had been proposed in the past would include reimbursement for telephone and certain other expenses that are just monthly ongoing expenses, as well as training opportunities, League of Cities seminars, the annual conference, those types of things. I think that it's a good idea. It will not only benefit the village, but it sort of requires the commission to take serious steps to learn what the business is of running the business, of running a village, and to network and find solutions for the things that are presented to us. And so I'm in full support of it.
Okay.
John, I have a question.
Yeah.
Assuming that all of us have telephones and cell phones, and we all had them before we became commissioners, we all have them now, and we will all have them when we're not commissioners anymore, would we still be in a position to declare part of the expense of that reimbursable by the village because we happen to be commissioners?
If you are using that phone, it really becomes, it's a several layer issue. But if you are using that phone for city business, usually you can do that, and there's even ordinances that other cities pass, which is an automatic compensation. It's assumed you're going to expend X amount, and it's given as a compensation. However, when it's done automatically, I know a couple of cities that have done that. The IRS ruled that that really is akin to a taxable compensation. As I understand, Commissioner Ross, this would be actually receipts or some level of documentation, and that would be simply paying for your expenses. You can decide whether or not that phone can be reimbursed because it's necessary to have a phone. Whether or not you have it before or after, if you're using it for village business, this commission could decide that you would reimburse the phone usage or the actual having the phone.
But what if the expense is the same all the time, and being a commissioner doesn't cause you to spend any more on your telephone?
You could still do that if you decided to.
Okay.
But you could also use your logic and say, since it's not costing you more, I don't want to do that, or we as a commission don't want to do that. There is an ordinance that addresses compensation that we have already that may need to be tweaked as we move forward, depending on what you do, but that can also be changed.
And would we have to decide on details like that now also?
Well, it's You can always come back, and to the extent it changes the budget, we might have to change the budget. I doubt it will, from what you're explaining, it'd just be an excess probably. So
Well, we could come back with a policy.
with the policy, and we may need an ordinance change. 2-17 is compensation of mayors and commissioners, which says you're paid on 4 quarterly installments. The sum is a flat sum. So in this case, depending what you do, it may result in a change.
So what
No,
what I
this is
would like
just
to
the,
do then, Dave,
This is just the code.
for a consensus, that we change from a straight payment scheme to a reimbursement scheme.
Okay. I mean, I personally don't feel comfortable making that change here tonight. I think we need to have a broader discussion with, have it advertised, this specific issue advertised and have your input. I mean, it's.
It doesn't matter to anybody except us.
Well, it matters to us, but it also matters to future.
They can change it if they don't like it.
Yes.
Now, John, take a look at our charter, section 2.06.
Right.
Compensation reimbursement for expenses.
Yeah, so it's an annual compensation that's set by ordinance by 4/5 majority vote.
Right, so you have to have, so it's by ordinance, like you said, and you have to have
If you're
4/5
changing.
of the commission to go in that direction. And like I said before, I'm against it.
Well,
And
well, we've
Commissioner Watson,
actually-
are you against it?
Yeah.
So you don't have 4/5.
Well, right, what we actually have done, the charter says it's to be set by ordinance. It's not an annual ordinance. We actually have an ordinance where it's
Right.
set, and it's 4 equal quarterly installments.
Correct, but we can't make you have to have a supermajority to make a change, according to the charter.
To change that ordinance that says that,
Correct.
correct. That's correct.
And we
It
don't
couldn't be
have a
done tonight, except other than,
Right, and we won't have a supermajority, so it's,
So Dave,
Oh, hold on one second, Commissioner.
And I would just like to say, you know my opinion on this, and this is an onerous thing. And I think every one of us spends at least our salaries and more on education, on things that have to do with the administration of the city. I mean, I've spent like almost $900 just going up to Orlando for League of City meetings. And so I think that just having to save all these pieces of paper and do all this kind of thing, it's just asking too much of the commission unless you give us some secretarial help.
Commissioner Jonas?
because I believe that this is in the interest of individual commissioners, because they get to use the whole $2,000 instead of just the part that's left over after taxes, and because I believe it's in the interest of the village, then I would like you to ask for a consensus, even if we don't achieve it. I would like anybody who doesn't agree to make their disagreement public. I'd rather we not ask for the consensus because it's clear that it won't be 4/5.
Here's the question for tonight, is
Wait a
this
minute.
line item.
Wait a minute, I don't understand what you want me, you want me to have each one of us tell our position?
Yeah,
We just did that.
well,
Yeah,
we
it's
didn't do it formally. You had two
Want me to get
people who said
I
they were
am
going to
against
The only thing we have to do tonight is expand that title of that line item so that as we discuss it further, if we're able to reach consensus or 4/5, that it could be used that way. As far as the budget.
compensation.
right. You're thinking to say / reimbursement.
Right.
Okay.
It doesn't change how you're going to be paid right now.
If you want to change the title, it's fine with me.
Baby steps.
Okay. All right, we'll change the title to / reimbursement.
You have consensus to do that?
Consensus? No?
I don't see why,
That's the
yeah.
point.
I mean, we're just mincing words right now, and you don't have 4/5. I think we're just going around in a circle, wasting time.
Oh, I think we're mincing more than words. I'd change the title.
I'm fine, change the title.
Thank you for confirming consensus.
Okay. Other issues, questions, comments?
Yeah. Because the ordinance itself attaches the budget and there were some conflicting figures, I just want to have a public statement of what those figures are that are going to be sort of correct it. And Heidi and I talked about this. The one that sort of stands out for me is under revenues in the ad valorem. On page 9, it shows the correct amount, which is $1,473,064.
Commissioner Russ, there's no figures referenced in the ordinance, sorry about that, and we've issued a revised budget.
The ordinance says attached as Exhibit 1 is the budget document, so it becomes part of the ordinance.
Correct, and we issued a revised document yesterday or the day before and have reposted it.
Oh, I didn't-
Okay, I don't
I
get
don't
it.
have that.
I didn't get it.
I mean,
By email, and I have printed copies on your table.
I didn't see any yet.
Fred, you have my copy?
I stole your copy.
Okay.
Or-
There were typos because we were doing the
Okay.
budget in
Two pieces.
pieces with some last-minute decisions.
Okay, so it's been corrected?
Page 6, 7, and 8.
Okay.
Page 6.
So the,
So I'm looking at this for the first
Go
time.
to six.
Electronic version?
Go-
That-
go
I must have
six.
missed it. Would you mind saying?
can you
I
go to
must have
page
missed it.
6 on the
I'm
screen,
sorry.
please? Go down. So on page 6, keep going, we didn't sum it properly. In the column where the hand is on the screen, the expenditures to date, we didn't include the 75,148 in our Excel spreadsheet. So the proper total expenditures to date is unreconciled at $2,028,447. And that was reissued. Page 7. On page 7, the organizational chart at the bottom, there's a graph, a table. We had left in the part-time code and the part-time recreation positions, which equaled a total of 5 part-time positions, when in reality it's 3. And then on page 8, that top number, 1,473,064, had a different number in it. And we corrected that number.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Manager.
All right, and that's what I had for comments.
Okay, that's it? Anything else?
I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance.
I have one, hold on.
Commissioner Watts, you had something
Yeah,
else?
just one thing under the CITT, when, let me see, it was, okay, under storm drainage, $6,000. I'm assuming that's for cleaning out the drains?
Yes, ma'am. It's no different than what we did this year.
Okay, was that just once a year?
Um,
Or is that twice a year? Because I thought that that needed to be done twice a year. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it might be twice. We gave ourselves 1.5 amount to see if we could negotiate a better price. But it's really something that we want to do before summer, before the rainy season.
Yeah, I wonder, what is the normal procedure, the normal recommendation for drain cleaning? Should it be 2
Most
times a year?
cities do it at the beginning of the rainy season.
And that's all?
They have VACCons and they go and do all the drains at the beginning of the rainy season. They also have a different system than we have, where they're drains that are connected to each other as opposed to the catch basins that we have. Again, we can modify the CITT and make those decisions as we go along throughout the year. But we did one clean out this past year, and to our knowledge, one had not been done for many, many years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Commissioner Ross, you made a motion? Second by Commissioner Jonas. Roll call.
With the 2 changes.
Correct.
Commissioner Watts?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jonas?
Yep.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
and Mayor Coviello.
Yes. Thank you again, Madam Manager and staff. Wonderful job. All right, let's move on to item 6A. Log cabin restoration project update.
Mayor, at the last meeting, if you recall, we had representatives from Mackenzie Construction here where the commission gave some feedback regarding their concerns and recommendations for the proposed dais for the historic log cabin. Mackenzie went back and in that short time frame, they were able to put together some proposals of what it would cost to achieve those recommendations. That was included in your backup, and it's also displayed on the screen. What you can see is that to stick with the original design, the price stays the same. However, they are offering a $1,500 courtesy discount for either option. And then they listed out how much it would cost for each option, change to the design. So based on the original R.J. Heisenbottle design, in order to make it movable, it would be $3,050. To add a tabletop on top would be $2,120. To remove the lip from the table would reduce it by $880. And to make just the wings removable would be $5,460. Additionally, the design that, or layout that they presented at the meeting, they have done a cost estimate of $19,450, and then to make some changes to that design, including making it a movable dais, would be $2,745. Retrofit a tabletop would be $1,908. Remove the lip would be $820, and to make the wings, the ends removable, will be $4,910. There would also be the $1,500 reduction, courtesy reduction, for this alternate plan as well. We have Hector Gonzalez, who's our project manager on the log cabin, here if you have any questions.
Okay. All right, who wants to start? Commissioner Ross?
I propose that we go with the alternate design and include the retrofit table cover so that it could be, the table, the dais could be used for other functions.
Mm-hmm.
And that would bring our price up to, if my math is correct, $21,678 after the 15%, after the $1,500 discount by Mackenzie. Thank you very much, Gavin and company. And then it would also be a reduction of what was originally proposed by something like $2,800.
But you're not, so you're not proposing a movable dais, a fixed dais, or?
I think that adding the retrofit table cover expands the use, and I don't see that spending the extra $5,000 to make it movable, even the smaller design, is worth that value.
Well, movable is 2,700, right?
Oh, right, 27, it's 4,900 for the wings.
Right.
So that, I don't see the value in that, and even the 2,745, most likely people using that space are gonna need some kind of table, and putting that cover on it helps accomplish that.
Okay, any other comments?
What exactly is the retrofit table cover?
Hector, can you come up to the mic and
Thank you.
explain the retrofit?
No, because it's not on there. You want me to describe that part, Hector?
The retrofit table cover to align. So
Yeah, just
basically-
explain what that is.
So basically, you have the lid that is designed
Well,
with the diet.
supposing that we take the lip off,
Well,
Then you don't
then
need
you
it.
don't need the retrofit.
That's what I thought.
Correct.
Okay. Let's go down the line.
So I would be in favor of keeping the fixed dais, removing the lip, and that's it.
The function of the lip is, I mean, it serves a function. It wasn't just put for,
Is to hide, I guess the intent is to hide so none of your documents are shown to the public.
Who cares?
Commissioner Jonas, but what fixed day is the redesign or the original design?
The original design,
Okay.
not movable, and remove the lip. It's not clear to me what exactly we have to hide.
Is
All
that the
right.
wiring?
Go ahead.
I have a couple of suggestions. One is the width that's proposed. I'm sitting here with 2.5 feet of space. I don't need any more than that. So, to cut down how wide it is.
But it's 2 feet 6 inches, right?
Yeah.
No, it is I'm talking about going back on the original, because I think the original proposal that had the 2 wings on it, where you had the 5 commissioners sitting there, that was over 2 foot 6 inches in width.
It was
That original
Because
So
of
2.5
the extension.
2.5
Right.
feet.
is just to have it 2.5 feet. The other thing is the surface. I would rather see us go ahead and put a laminate on the top that looks like wood. That way we don't have to cover it, we don't worry about damage. If somebody has a cold drink on there, in other words, I think the surface, serves its purpose a lot better being with the laminate. I also don't think that we need quite the length that is showing. I prefer a movable one with the wings, the ends that could be taken off of it, so everything can go ahead and against the wall if the space is needed. The other thing is that I'm just curious is on the speaker enclosure that's in the middle of it, because I heard at one time.
That's coming out.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
because
fine.
what I'm reading on the sheet here, it was showing that.
Our-
I
our
think you
this
guys
one.
just used the original estimating that Lim did during the bidding process, because it references, we called it today, it references in here the speakers that we had already talked about taking out. And I apologize, I didn't
Correct.
catch that when you and I were
Obviously,
reviewing
That
it.
would be a credit to taking the speakers, it just didn't show here.
Right. And also, too, I would like to have it movable. I think, let me go ahead and go with your expertise. If we went ahead and structurally built it out of steel, structurally, we had the wheels to that, fasten that, then you could be putting the wood facing to the steel structure, which would be just square tubing, steel. And then you went ahead, you can use thinner plywood, veneered plywood, to that, which would cut the cost down. And it would be lighter, but structurally it'd be stronger because of the steel framework. Is that doable to go that direction, or would that actually increase the cost in your mind?
I'm not the estimator for the job, so that would have to go.
Right.
What I can say is that basically last time when we were here, we went through, I guess, the
Correct.
motion of the option, so if you're looking
Right.
for something else, and it wasn't captured here, maybe it wasn't brought up. at the last
It
meeting.
wasn't, because, it's like anything else, the more you think about it,
Sure.
start coming up
With
with.
all due respect to you, I just think we need to discuss the general concept to them and not.
True.
I mean, we're not.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'd like to have it movable. I'd like to have the wings to be able to detach.
You ready to go into the reserves more?
Well, let's
I-
see,
I-
let's see about maybe redesigning some of these things to bring the cost back down.
Well, one thing, I mean, not that this is a big cost, but the cavity for the speaker, but also you're indicating the logs and the chinking on the front. And I think we can all discuss it, but my impression is that most people do not want that. They want more of a simplified dais. So again, I don't know that that substantially decreases the cost, but
And also, too, having a laminate on the top versus finished wood.
I think that this discussion does suggest that, in a sense, we're doing this on the fly, and it needs further deliberation. I think that we can decide whether or not we want one. Of course, I'm in favor of a movable one. But I think that the revised design, and thank you all for designing it, and I think gives us something to talk about, but I think that this is a starting point, not the end point of choosing one or the other, because I still think there are some issues, no offense or anything, but to have a dais with 8 people, who in the administration will sit there, and we won't be able to look at certain members of the administration because we're all in a line. So I think there are all kinds of other things that need to be discussed, and how we're going to use this log cabin. In many ways, I don't want us to really mar and destroy, in a sense, the magical, simple space of this interior that was called originally the village, the community center. Not the dais I don't think should be a fixed feature, because we won't be able to use it for other things. And if you just walk into that log cabin, it is a magical space. And to have something fixed that is always there, can't be moved, and the place we might as well just say, okay, it's for commission meetings and that's it. And I think that this should be a discussion, a point for discussion, because I think there still are problems with the way in which we've got the configuration now in the modified one, and the other one, the original design, will take up over essentially half of the room. So I really think that we should put this on hold and con calma, as I said in an email, festina lente, make haste slowly. And I think that just jumping into this is a mistake, and that we should consider it. And all right, we need to compromise, but I don't think that the suggestion, the revised version, is the answer. I think we've got to, do a little more study and figure something else out. Even as was discussed last week about the TV screens, where they're going to be. Okay, that's all in flux, but I'm thinking, oh my golly, you put these huge things on the wall, 5 feet, is that going to destroy the, why didn't we ever consider as having a really nicely designed retractable screen? I've seen them, they're beautiful, that they're not so invasive, so that when you walk in, you're always going to see these 5-foot screens. I think that in working to preserve this building, we're going to destroy the interior, and I think it's too special to do that. And I think the community needs more. So I think, yes, we can say, okay, we're going to set aside funds, but I don't think that we should go forward with the design, either design, at this point. And I think that, again, as I said, we've done fine with skirted tables, and I think we can make do with them until we get the right design done. We don't need to do it quickly, we need to do it right.
I think we need to go ahead and approve the $135,000. I don't think that.
Well, that
Look,
was approved already in the budget.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
That was approved in the budget.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, I don't think we're ever going to just all agree on the design. I mean, it's so subjective. So to a certain extent, we need to come up with a general recommendation and then leave it to the people that we hired to come forward with the design. With that said, I don't think that what we have here gives us enough, at least gives me enough of a, I can't tell what it's going to look like, and I need to see what it's going to look like. Again, I'm not going to get down to how it's constructed, things of that nature, but I do need to see what it looks like, and I don't think that we're there yet for that. And I ask you, staff, and you, I mean, if we don't approve the exact design tonight, this is not going to hold up construction, correct? I mean, we know generally where it's going. We know that we have the conduits coming out.
The construction, I'll tell you, is not going to get compromised because of this.
Okay.
The dais itself is the one that obviously will get compromised.
Right.
Yeah.
And
We just have to do the electric, that's all.
So the construction of that piece of furniture will get compromised.
Correct.
Correct. And I'm not saying delay it, and have 6 months of workshops and conversations,
Why
but
not? What if we don't all agree in 6 months? Maybe we need more.
Then we get to
All
have
I'm-
one of these.
Yeah, have one of these.
all I'm saying is I think we at least need to discuss and see what it's going to look like leave the details to the experts. I mean, we have here that the whole front, the front face is going to be logs with chinking.
So do you want a model, you want them to create a model of what it's going to look like?
A plan, similar to what was done when Heisenbottle, you know, and,
Didn't we have that last time?
Yeah, you've seen the plan.
A very basic
no,
plan of
that's the layout. A layout,
The
right?
layout of the-
Yeah, it was.
The footprint, yeah. What
Yeah.
I'm looking for with Heisenbottle did was a section of it, so we can see what it's going to look like.
I mean, I'd be more comfortable with just sort of a sketch, as if
Of
I
the
was
front.
sitting there looking at it.
Yeah,
Because
that's what I'm saying.
my concern is if we have those logs in the front, and what I gather, it's going to have chinking between those logs, so as the public is looking, you're going to have the logs behind you with the chinking stripes, and then you're going to have the dais with stripes. I think it'd be overpowering, and I'm not sure whether, you know, you need to have all of that striping on the dais.
I would be fine with losing that design detail, especially if it would save us a little.
But I am comfortable with the original shape, so the commission can look at staff.
And I prefer the original shape as well, and if the consensus is to have it movable, I'm fine with that too. Obviously, it's going to cost more money, so we need to consider that, but we need to consider that with the proper design. We don't know what we don't know what it's going to cost yet, because this has multiple things in the proposal that it sounds like we're not in favor of.
And we may find out that the cost making it movable, including the wings coming loose, by having those other changes, it may come real close to balancing itself out on cost-wise.
That's, I guess, is going to be the challenge, because we've approved the budget allowing for $135,000 to be allocated to finish Phase 4.
And we need to stay within that budget.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, and it turns out, if it turns out that we can't have removable wings
Mayor,
with
if I
the
could-
design that we want, then so be it.
If I could assist and at the same time help us get clear direction, perhaps you can go through each option, including the layout, and see where everyone is with consensus. And then as staff, we can go back, work with the designers on it, and then a presentation would be made to the commission. But I don't want to waste the designer's time if they're not clear on everything from the original layout to the new layout,
No, absolutely, I
movable.
agree.
So maybe
agree.
going down those options would help us get somewhere.
I agree, but I also think, I mean, I think Mr. Heisenbottle also needs to be brought into the picture, right?
Yeah,
So that
he knows that we're going through this exercise, and as we get to the aesthetics of the unit, absolutely.
Okay.
David?
All right, yes.
Just one other thing. You know, I do think that we should still consider various alternatives, and both designs have the wings coming out, the U shape, to a certain extent. But the second design still doesn't allow for, we might go back to a dais with for the 5 commissioners, and then because of the folding things are so expensive, just have a separate table for the administration. You know, in that, I think in Heisenbottle's report, and I didn't bring the book with me, there's a 1935 photograph of it, that shows what probably was the original table. And it's one of those rough, very simple logs. It reminds me of the bench that's on the outside. It was probably made at the same time, and it was just a very simple, elegant table that could be used for the administration. Then we would get away from all of the expense of the U-shape. So that's why I'm thinking that we need to think this all out. And I think that McKinsey, the firm, has done a great job. I think you came up with that design in like 3 days or something. So, you know, I think it still needs to percolate at the various options that we might have.
Okay, but we need to give staff direction so that they can come back and present something to us. So I agree with the manager, let's go through the options and
So you
have a
want to
discussion.
say the original design versus the...
I think that's what we need to do, yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
think that's where we need to start with, the layout.
Right.
So I'm fine with the original footprint, the original design footprint.
Okay. And
Okay.
I agree with that, just because I think it works better
That's
from a meeting
that's with the
perspective.
9 people with the 2 angled
Correct,
windows, right?
correct.
Me
Right.
too.
I'm for sitting for 9, I just think we can reduce the physical size down, but for seating for 9,
Okay,
I'm
but reduce the
for it.
size of it, okay.
correct.
Not with the current plan, thank you.
I'm sorry?
I'm against the current plan, either one of them.
Okay. All right, so I think there's consensus for the original layout, possibly looking at reducing the overall footprint of it, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
When you say reducing the footprint, you mean the depth? The
Depth, width, everything?
Yes.
From what to what, though?
Well, we haven't discussed that, but, I mean, I don't think,
Designers.
I think,
Fixed or movable?
well, that's the next issue. Okay, fixed or movable?
fixed.
Fixed.
Okay,
Movable.
It's paramount that it's movable.
okay. All right, I'm fine with movable so long as it's cost effective with the design that we want.
I'm not sure I understand what that means.
When we go through the end and we know the design that we want and the type of structure that we want, if we can afford it, then I'll go with movable. Okay.
Mayor, there's just
Yes.
one question as we're going to, manager?
Yes.
The original design, remember I discussed before, they had telephone jacks in there, and it also had data in there. Is that part of the 24,000, those things?
No, all the low voltage is a separate line item.
Okay,
in
so that
the
wouldn't be part of it.
log
Okay,
item.
okay. Because remember I was mentioning that we really didn't need those, so that won't affect the price.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about the wings, because with the design that we chose, they are the wings that come out. So there's an option here to actually have those removable, separate.
No.
No?
From what I see, I think it's too costly to have that.
Okay.
I would like to see them moved, and I also would like to have
Removable.
the removable, but two ways. One, that Commissioner Watts said, is just having two separate tables. So they're just abutted to them. They're not actually fastened to them. Because remember, we're all going to be on the same level of the floor. It's not going to be a situation like where we're sitting at now. So I'd like to see, you know, if it was just two separate tables, is that cost more or does it cost less?
Okay, so you're for removable wings, but possibly looking at having two separate tables?
Correct.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what direction are we giving staff on this?
We don't know yet.
And the mayor
Commissioner Watson, the mayor.
on the wings.
No, the wings, I'm fine with not having them be removable, so long as the whole structure can be moved back.
Mayor, what about the surface that I brought up about the laminate?
Okay. Okay.
Okay, let's talk about the...
Hold on, wait a minute. Excuse me. I forgot about me. All right. I just wanted to ask about, you know, the movable wings. Okay. Are you envisioning them, because I wasn't quite sure, that you could take them away or that they would fold down?
Maybe I should take them away.
Okay. What about folding down?
Folding
You know how sometimes, like even a typewriter table, sometimes the old-fashioned typewriter table where there's a little thing that pulls out here that provides something like that, or something that folds in or has legs that can fold down.
Correct. No, we didn't account
You know,
for
I
that.
think I would love to know how much that would cost. It might reduce the price. It might be something that, well, whatever.
Okay, I don't... So, I'm sorry, you said something about a typewriter table.
Yeah, well, there are different kinds of tables that actually, when you have something that extends, okay, there's a hinge, and it just goes down on the side, and then it pulls up.
typewriter is.
That's what we were saying. Hector doesn't know what a typewriter is.
No, it's in.
Yeah,
Involves.
something that just, you know, flips down, or even, I'm trying to think, there are things like that, well, an old-fashioned ironing board table that comes out of the wall, like a door, and it comes down, and you can put it back up. This, you could go down and up, just with a hinge.
Okay, is there any consensus for that? I don't mean
Or-
to,
I know, but
no, you're trying to be creative, and I
I'm
that's why I
not,
think we need to think about these things more than just jumping into it.
right. And, I'm not too sure how that would look. It's just, right now, like I say, we're sort of jumping into this and trying to discuss this stuff on the fly without, maybe each one of us ought to be able to do some kind of a sketch that our thoughts are. But,
I mean, what I'm trying to accomplish, and maybe you don't all agree, but is to get some consensus on, and give them some guidance so that they can come back, and maybe it's not just one, but they can come back with 2 sketches as to what this is going to look like. so that
I
we can make
I
a
agree,
decision.
because, if we don't do, if we can keep talking to this thing forever.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
So let's
Just
keep.
one more thing?
Yep.
Okay. Just imagine a day is just like the one, this table here, essentially for us. And we have to envision where the administration is going to sit. And in the original U-shaped one, the members of the administration would sit on either side. Why not consider the possibility of just having 2 tables on either side, rather than this whole thing that is permanent in a U-shape that's so large and vast and takes up such a footprint? You have 2 very nice, elegant, movable tables that would decrease the cost of the dais considerably.
Any other comments on that proposal?
I mean, that's what I was saying, as far as why I wanted to see removable wings on it, and it could be 2 different ways. What Commissioner Watts is saying, it may be very financially doable.
Okay,
I
so
don't
we'll
know.
put your suggestion under the separate tables, which Commissioner Anderson proposed. All right, let's talk about the lip. Keep the lip?
Talk
Yes.
about one more
Sure,
variation
sure.
of that. And to me, it was kind of strange to have the 2 wings on the side, and maybe because I'm used to staff sitting all together, and sometimes you consult with each other, I thought having you on opposite sides of the table may not be the best function. So if you're going to talk about moving a piece out, maybe it's just one longer piece that accommodates all of staff. 3, 4 people.
Yeah, in most cities, usually the only people at the table are the manager, the clerk, and the attorney.
So 3 people.
Yeah. And I think the 4th was just to balance out the design.
And usually,
This is very unusual.
usually the attorney's on one end, and then
Yeah,
the
they
staff
don't-
is on the other.
Yeah, the
All right,
attorney and
well,
clerk tend to sit close to each other, and the managers by themselves.
Or with the deputy sometimes.
Right. But if we had, as Commissioner Watts was pointing out, if we had separate tables, they can be put however, for over a period of time.
And if it's just one
Decide.
table instead of 2, that's going to impact on the cost.
But we don't know what, these are unknowns to us right
but
now.
Commissioner Miller, but also if it's one table, okay, that's going to affect the seating arrangement of the residents, as it projects, because you have to look at the dimensions of the room itself. So that's, I think we really do need sketches that will show the footprint with these various options within the interior space of the log cabin.
The sketch that we saw with the footprint had 75 seats in it. I think we're not going to need all those seats. They could be moved around.
Okay. I'm just thinking about the size of the table for the staff. That's why I think we need to really work on this. And
All right, we're going to
through
come back. So we have the separate tables as an option.
Right.
Let's move on to the lip.
Yeah.
The lip versus the retrofit.
I think we don't need a lip, because we can have electrical underneath and the connections underneath. With the lip, it was 3 feet 2 inches from edge to edge, where the lip is so without the lip, you're at 2 foot 6 inches, what we have right here. And I think that's adequate.
One of the issues, I think, with the cover, the retrofit cover, is even if you remove the lip, you're going to have, electrical connections and things that you're going to want to protect if the table's used for another function.
They have,
Tablecloth on.
they have,
Liquids
they
seeping
have
into your electrical
Plastic.
connections.
just like on floors, they have boxes that have a cover that you open up and you can get to your connections. And when you close the box, just like they do on floors, and most office buildings have that. I mean, are they 100% waterproof that you can be pouring hose on them? No, but those boxes are raised because they're about 1/4 of an inch on an angle going up to them.
So,
The metal covers, like you see on floors.
that raised box is going to change the function of the table, if you're going to use the table for serving or for something else.
I don't see why, because you're talking about something that's about 2.5 inches wide, maybe 4 inches in length. I don't see how that's going to, how much it's going to be changed. If it changes that much, then we're going to have connections underneath, and you connect everything going up underneath. But I don't think that we need to have something sticking up. And if we have a laminate top, you don't need to have anything else that you're covering it.
Okay, so lip versus retrofit. You want the retrofit.
Yes, retrofit table cover.
Lose the lip.
You don't need table cover.
Yeah. But a table, with this retrofit table cover, is it just canvas? I think that's what the village
No,
manager.
it's a
Oh.
wood
Yeah.
structure.
Same.
Wood structure over it.
That we're going to have to store someplace. So that's why
Yeah,
I don't see we need any of that.
Okay, so remove the lip. I'm fine with removing the lip. Okay. Let's talk about the front finish. Does everyone like the logs and the chinking, or would they prefer something simpler?
I prefer something simpler to help reduce the cost. If sometime in the future, we can always put logs on it if the community wants it.
Okay, I agree. Anyone else?
I like the image, but I'd just as soon save the money.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Wow. That was 5.
Matchy, matchy.
We do that.
All right, so we're fine with that. Let me see what else here. I think that's really it.
Mayor?
Oh, the surface, right? You want to talk about the surface?
Yeah, having a laminate surface that mimics wood. Doesn't have to be the wood itself.
Okay. Any comments on that?
I don't feel qualified to have an
I don't
opinion on
either.
that.
I assume that a wood surface would have some kind of varnish or something to make it sturdy.
Just finish. You have to make it a finished look.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah,
I just as soon have the wood.
I do too.
I'd like to see both options.
Okay. I think there's, so you're, well, do you want to take a position, or you'd rather just
No.
leave it to the, okay. All right, so it looks like there's consensus for the original layout with a possible footprint, a slight footprint reduction. And perhaps we get prices on one movable, one non-movable. The movable option also, we need an option for removable wings.
No, there was no consensus on removable wings.
No consensus, okay.
Having separate tables.
Okay, separate tables.
Yeah.
I think you
Could we
were the
just see the design,
swing
see
vote
the
on that
design
one
of that?
to see.
Oh, I'd like to see the option at least.
Yeah, I think you agree on that.
Okay. But and that's going to be with the movable, the
It's gonna be two different. It's gonna be either
both
gonna be
options. Both
either
options.
one piece movable versus non-movable, or the 3 pieces or the 3 tables movable versus.
Okay.
Yep.
And then there was consensus to remove the lip. There was consensus to simplify the front design. And I think that's it.
What was the consensus of the top?
To wood.
Okay.
Oh, I thought we're still considering both laminate and wood. We could see
well,
how much, what the price difference is?
Yeah, I mean, if you
I'd
could
like
come
to
up with
see
some
that.
proposal of a different material that's durable, but
I'd like to see that. And the other thing I'd like to discuss, since we had consensus of not having the logs, the podium we have now, instead of getting a brand new one, getting that refinished, so it matches in color.
okay, I think we discussed that.
We
We haven't.
really didn't discuss
Yeah.
it.
I
Okay.
heard that they needed the extra podium.
But I thought that we would have an extra one here, and then the reason for doing the one there is so that it matches.
Okay, so you want, so this one will still be in use then,
Yeah.
over here?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's a different story.
I have questions about that. But just one other thing, one suggestion. I think that after we get the designs and we see how it fits into the actual shape and the dimensions of the log cabin, that perhaps we as a group, and just advertise it, go over to the log cabin and then look at it in that space. Because I think that when people look at the plans, they don't realize, you know, the footprint that it has until you walk into the space and you actually see it marked out. And I think that would be very helpful in us making a decision. Because none of us are professionals in this kind of thing. And I think being there helps you really see and visualize. It changes everything when you realize what it looks like in the space.
I like that idea, you know, especially, like you said, marked out, so, you know, if it's marked out on the floor, we don't have to, you know, obviously, we're not going to go together, but if the manager can let us know that when there's some kind of a drawing that could be setting over there, or sketch, and then each one of us can go over there separately. It'd be marked out on the floor where it's going, and we got the sketch. And I think it would help us to get a good opinion on.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you going to be able to come back with those options with pricing, and then also a sketch as to how it would look?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll work on that. My last question was, you still want to keep 9 seats? I know we want to try to shrink it as much as possible, but keeping the 9 seats, that's the goal?
Well, we need to have 5 seats here, you know, on this part of it.
And 3,
And then,
and 3.
Minimum 3.
well,
Yes, ma'am. 3.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think the 9 is what we should have. That was the original layout.
yes. But, you know, even on this side, I think we can reduce.
Correct, with the idea of trying to shrink the footprint.
All right, but 9 seats, I just want to make sure 9 seats are...
But we could have one with 5 seats and then the other part of it with the remaining 4.
Right.
Yeah, and the design.
Okay, so timing-wise, when are you able to produce that?
I'll have to go back, not because of the pricing, but mostly because of the drawing.
Okay.
So, and I'm not, let me go back and I will get with Heidi tomorrow.
Okay, and
Our next regular commission meeting is October 6th to kind of give you a target
Okay.
that we can discuss.
but there's also going to be some coordination with Mr. Heisenbottom.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so October
Hector,
6th.
is this whole thing about 18 feet?
That right there?
There are 6 of these. Is each one about 3 feet?
No, each one of these tables is 6 feet.
Well, he's saying half of
Oh.
one.
Yeah.
So can we just push together a little bit to see what's comfortable if we make it smaller than this? Keep your hands to yourself.
We're all friends, right?
That's
Is
too,
this still comfortable?
no.
We'll make it so it's comfortable. I just want to see.
Well,
how-
also too, the
That's
chairs,
comfortable.
But other commissioners years from now may not want to be as
I know.
close.
I'm just saying, what would be comfortable for,
you know,
in general?
and also too, we really don't need to have chairs to have these arms that makes it hard to get in and out.
So we can use what, about one of these tables and still be comfortable?
That's going to give it 12 feet, and I
No,
think
that's
12 feet.
15.
All right, let's,
66 is 12.
15.
Oh, okay.
Well,
How many
let's,
tables do we
Is
have
that
here?
comfortable for 5 people?
I thought we had 3 tables here. We got,
all right, it's only 8 o'clock, so I'm going to do something quick. I just want to see if anyone else has any comments that they want to make, but keep them very brief.
I have a couple of comments. My first question is,
can you hold on one
I'm sorry,
second?
Ed?
Would you announce who you are, please?
yes, Ed Chisholm, 625 Northeast 114th Street. From what I understand, the plan calls for the dais to be 36 inches high. You're sitting at a 30-inch table. Imagine raising it another 6 inches. You'll be like this, trying to see what's going on. So I think the height of the thing is incorrect to begin with. Secondly, I'm wondering, was no offense to Mackenzie, but are they professional dais designers? Has this been put out to bid, or are we just going with them because they happen to be there working? So that's my second question. And my third statement is, this is an enormous amount of money, for a village that is already deeply in debt, and we're like just spending money like we had it to spend. I just do not see the justification at this point in the process where how you can justify spending this money. It's just unconscionable to me.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want us to answer some of those questions?
Yes.
The height?
I agree.
I believe there's a lip to it, and that's
Right, that's
what
why.
shows in the height.
Yeah,
The
it-
design was designed originally by Heisenbottle, who was contracted through the bid process to do the design, and Mackenzie was selected with the dais in the package as part of the bidding. So they did bid on it, as did all other bidders. And their, if you go onto their website, it would explain it better than I could, but they have an entire craftsman cabinetry shop there, so.
And what they're showing on the drawings is the surface to the floor, not the lip, but the surface is 2 foot 6 inches.
Correct.
Okay, Gary.
It's not about the dais. I just a point of information. We already do progressive fines, Commissioner Ross. We've been doing that for some time. We ran it through the village manager. We came up with a schedule, and we use that at meetings. And also a comment on doing sweeps. If you hire somebody for a couple of 3 weeks, they issue a bunch of courtesy notices, which is our process, and then they're not there to testify, and who's going to follow up? So you spend 3 weeks issuing courtesy notices. It's just going to give a tremendous burden to Reggie that he's not going to be able to follow up on. So I think it needs to be thought through as to what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Otherwise, it's going to be a waste of money.
Okay.
Mayor, would you
Thank
like
you.
me to respond?
Yes, please.
We discussed this last time. We're looking for enough hours in the outsourcing company so that they would follow the project all the way through to the Code Compliance Board. That's already been considered by us. And the progressive fines is not what is currently in place, but instead it gives, for certain violations, it's called in police, it's PTA.
NTA.
And NTA, a notice to appear. And it's like issuing a traffic ticket, but on the code side by our code officer without it even having to go to the board for very specific defined violations. And we discussed this already at the commission.
In order to address those situations where there are repeat offenders who get the citation or get the courtesy notice, and then they correct it before it comes up for a hearing.
Right.
Even the
Keeping-
first
keeping
time,
the garbage out.
yeah, keeping a garbage out is an automatic
And I'm gonna get-
ticket, those type of
The manager and I
things.
are going to get together because there may be another 1 or 2 creative ways to do it as well, so.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah, David, I just have one comment. Oh, Barbara, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say Mr. Chisholm is one of many people who have pointed out how expensive this proposed dais is. It costs more than my 2014 car. It's a lot of money. However, not one of the people, not one of them, has come forward and said, I myself do this kind of work, I know somebody who does this kind of work, and here's an alternate proposal for you. Not one person has given us that.
Right. All right. On that note, Madam.
Yeah. I think it was indicated that because we signed a contract that they have first line of refusal, because there are other people in the village that could have come forward with suggestions.
Well,
Now,
they
one
didn't.
thing I wanted to talk about is the podium. We don't necessarily need to be matchy-matchy with everything. And I think Commissioner Anderson's suggesting that we use this. The one problem I have with this is that many of us are not high enough to reach anything and can't be seen. So I'd like a little step underneath it, and it could be refinished, and it has a history to it. And we could buy for $564.99 a solid wood podium that could be used here, or we could get one that's acrylic or more modern in design and movable. So, and some of the really high-end podiums that I've seen could cost $1,800, but I don't think if we're going to go that way, I don't think we really need to spend the money. and we could wait for another year to do it. And so here there are, if you just Google podium, and you will find all kinds of websites that specialize in podium, discounted podiums, and here are a bunch of them, and I didn't want to waste paper and make Xeroxes for everyone, but you could just take a look at that. We could just use that and get another one.
I mean, look, no one's saying that this is not a lot of money to spend, but I think we need to be more long-term thinking that what we're doing now is going to be there for a very long time, and it's going to have a lasting impact on the village. So,
could ruin it.
But I appreciate what you're offering.
We've spent a lot of time talking about this dais and the podium, and you know, it just boggles my mind that there are a lot of other things that went into this project, that are still going into this project, that we haven't inspected to such detail. I mean, should we open that up now? Do we want to look at what the light fixtures are going to be like? Look at, you get to a point of, you get to a point of how much detail are you going to go into?
But a $24,000 expenditure, when we've done perfectly well with these tables over the years, is something that gives one pause, and I think it gives residents pause. So we really do have to think about it. And do we have to have that now at this point, or could we, sit on it and wait for a couple
but that
of years?
same train of thought, Commissioner,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but
Yeah, I know.
You said on this dais that I was crazy, that we were crazy for going
I
after
didn't
$1
say
million.
crazy.
Wait,
You
yes,
keep
you
using
did.
that word.
I'll pull up the tape.
Okay, you do that.
So if your position that we would never do any, were you fine with the police department in that trailer with no running water? Were you fine with them working in a molding building? We do things
That's
to move
fallacy.
ahead, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, moving ahead, but is that going to make our meetings function any better, to be sitting in front of on a $24,000 dais?
Well, does it make the police function any better that now they're in a beautiful...
Of course we wanted that.
Okay.
But that's not the same as a $24,000 piece of furniture.
All right, well, let's have announcements.
Friday, September 11th is our 9/11 memorial service starting at 7 p.m. On Saturday, there's our Saturday quarterly trash pickup for yard trash. Please put your yard trash out no earlier than 24 hours before and no later than 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. On Wednesday, September 16th is the Compliance Board at 7 p.m. Saturday, September 19th is the Stormwater Master Plan Kickoff Meeting at 9:30 a.m. Saturday, September 19th is the Village Manager Roundtable Meeting at 10:30 a.m. That particular meeting is at our new Village Hall. Monday, September 21st is Planning and Zoning Board at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, September 22nd is the Recreation Advisory Board at 7 p.m. And Thursday, September 24th will be our second public hearing for the budget at 6:30 p.m.
Motion
All
to
right.
adjourn?
Thank you, everyone.